Music matters. Mr. Ben, cheers, my brother. Good morning.
Cheers. Good morning.
How you doing,
Sunday
bro?
morning. I'm doing well. I'm doing really well.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Mr. Ben Koppenjan of Carpool Tunnel fame. I always say, I never know how to pronounce your last. Is it Koppenjan? Is that correct?
You know, my family, like most of my life, has been saying Koppenjan.
Like copper.
But like, there's one side of my family, and it's kind of like up for debate. Like between all of them, is like that. It's pronounced Koppenjan.
Jan.
It's Dutch. So.
Oh, it's Dutch. You're Dutch?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not like I want to say like less than 15, 20%, maybe more. I don't know.
The only other Jan I've heard of is Jan Gomes. He was like a catcher for like the A's and the Guardians. That's the only other time I've heard of Jan. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna go with Koppenjan. I think that is more of a ring to it.
And people used.
What
to,
do you prefer?
Like, I don't even know anymore. I just say Koppenjan because that's what I've been saying my whole life. But I used to have like school principals that would like mispronounce my name on like the intercom, you know? Like I remember like back in my elementary school when I was in like second grade, they used to give like student of the month awards in like each class, which seems kind of fucked up nowadays, but
yeah, I feel like that would fly down.
And you would get like a popsicle. You'd like go to like the.
That's even weirder.
It was weird.
Yeah,
it was weird, but it was like they would do it on the, on the loudspeaker, so everyone was listening, and then you'd like walk. It was like you do this little walk all the way down to the office to go get your popsicle. And I remember like have a vivid memory of sitting in the school classroom and her being like, and Ben Koppenjan. And I was like, all right, that's one way to pronounce it.
Yes, that is syllables. Those are words. Ben Koppenjan.
Well, people would like say Copenhagen.
Like the chewing tobacco?
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to go to like a kind of, I grew up in a pretty small town, so it was like a one high school town and lots of hicks.
Yeah.
And I remember like one of the football coaches, he would like be out on the track because I did like a little track and field for a little bit.
Oh, so did I.
And he would be like, because you'd do roll call like down at the bleachers, and he would be like Ben Koppenjan, and he would do like the wrist thing, like
you snap dip. The can, yeah,
like that's the kind of school I went to.
Where I remember we covered this like briefly when I interviewed you for the first time, but God, that is crazy, dude. That does seem like years ago now that I'm thinking about it. Like parts of it are coming back to me. I'm like, holy shit, that was a minute ago. But we covered it a little bit at the first time. But what was the town you grew up in? It's like San Diego-esque, right? Like area, or where is it?
It's Salinas Valley, so it's like a little north of like Ventura, Santa Barbara area.
Okay, so it's SoCal.
They call it like the Central Coast.
Okay, where are you in comparison to like SLO?
Just a little south of it.
Okay,
like 45 minutes south of San Luis Obispo and like Pismo Beach area.
Oh, okay. What was like the surrounding big city when you were like? Was there like a big city you'd go to as a kid? Like for example, like I grew up in Concord, so I was always going to SF, obviously. But it was like I grew up like going to SF every single weekend, and then like when I got older, it was like I was there every single day. Was there like an equivalent to that?
Yeah, like I mean, okay, so we had like one major grocery store, which is like an Albertsons, and then if you wanted to like go to like a Target or like a Best Buy, or you'd have to drive up like 30 minutes either way. It would be like either Santa Maria or Santa Barbara. And like Santa Barbara is like still not like a city. I mean, it's like big, but
Santa Maria. I don't even think I've ever even heard of Santa Maria.
I think their claim to fame is like tri-tip or something.
Oh, my kind of spot. So you live there, and then you moved. Was it like San Francisco right after that?
So I graduated high school.
Oh, because you went to San Jose, right?
Went down to Santa Barbara actually to go to City College.
Oh,
for 2 years, and then oddly enough, just kind of applied to like as many state schools as I could in kind of areas like I was considering going. I think I like applied to like Long Beach, like SFSU, like San Francisco State, and then San Jose. And then I think I got into both San Francisco and San Jose, but I ended up choosing San Jose because I was like convinced to go study finance.
Yeah.
And then I like was like, okay, this is the only school I can study this at, so I'm gonna go to San Jose. Kind of just like took a chance, like didn't know anybody out there, and then I mean, I'm glad I did now because
Yeah.
it all worked out.
It led to everything.
Yeah.
Did you have any preconceptions of like San Jose before you went up there, or was it just like I'm gonna figure it out?
I literally just went up there once and I was like, this is cool.
That's interesting because like I like the San Jose State campus, but I feel like people may make fun of me for the fact that I like it because I almost went there. When I was like. That was the only school that it was like that and SF State were the only schools I really considered instead of community college because I was like, I could commute. Mm-hmm. So I considered them. But I really like the San Jose State campus and I kind of like how it's like in the midst of everything.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, for my like crazy like moves 300 miles a minute brain, it's satisfying. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I actually enjoyed like where it was.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I kind of had a similar experience when I went up there. I was like, I like this campus. Like,
yeah.
It's nice, and it was like enough of a city at the time where I was like, okay, this is going to be a big change for me, compared to like Santa Barbara.
Yeah. So music was like not in the plans at that point, though.
It was in the plans.
Yeah.
But like I was in a band in Santa Barbara, like kind of this. I just met some friends through like places I had worked in and around Santa Barbara, and we were playing for like probably about a year together, like in a rehearsal space. But then I had to transfer to a school because I was like, I'm gonna keep doing school, and then ended up going up there, and then I just kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna look for other musicians, like, yeah, and that's when
and that's when the whole Carpool Tunnel ordeal happened.
App came up on my phone.
Goddamn, Vamper, right?
Yeah,
Vamper.
They're still using our ad.
Shout out, really?
We made an ad for them, like I guess this is 2017 now. And I swear to God, like last week, my coworker sent me the ad that came up on our Instagram, and we were on it, and it was like 2017 us, And I'm like, why are they still like just I'm surprised they haven't asked us to make another ad.
Yeah, I mean, would you do it?
If they paid us.
Vamper's claim to fame is ultimately Carpool Tunnel. Like there's. Well, I hope you realize that must mean that you were like the biggest success story there. You gotta be.
But, I mean, it seemed like there's like quite a bit on this video, but it seems like they're kind of doing the same thing with all the other artists. That are
maybe you guys just made the best video. Maybe everybody else's video was like poorly shot.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty good video. It's candid.
It's candid. Sure. That's funny. What was your like community college experience like? Because it's funny, bro. Don't take this in the wrong way, but I went to community college, and I feel like Santa Barbara Community College specifically has like such this like whenever I hear people going there, it's because they like wanted to go to UCSB but like didn't get into UCSB, so they go there and then directly transfer. And it's kind of like the school that I went to in Pleasant Hill. It's called DVC, and it was like the purpose of it is like if you want to go to Berkeley, you like go there. Was that kind of the vibe that like Santa Barbara Community College was like for you?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I kind of looked into that community college near Berkeley too because I
DVC
for
really?
Reason I had this like kind of lofty goal of mine when I was
how lofty.
When I was like a senior in high school, I was like, oh, like I'll go into business. I'll like try to go to Haas School of Business, which is like I think one of the best business schools in the country.
Imagine an alternate universe where you went to DVC.
I don't know.
That'd be crazy. Well, actually, I guess it probably wouldn't have been that like different from the reality because like that's Berkeley. That's like 25 minutes. I mean, that's like what, 20 minutes from the city, 35 minutes. No, it's like 40 minutes from San Jose, probably.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like Bradley was like already kind of in the scene somewhat when I moved up to the Bay Area. Like, so, I think if I would have like found the scene in any way, we would have crossed paths at some point. Yeah,
probably, especially if you were living in Berkeley. Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. But what was the community college experience like for you?
Oh yeah, going back to that. It was good. It was. I really liked Santa Barbara City College. I particularly went there just because it was like the closest community college to me, and it was really cheap.
Yeah.
And it just kind of coincidentally was also the #1 community college at the time in like the country or something like that. I don't think it is anymore, but it's like still pretty high.
I think it's really good. Yeah.
So it just kind of like made sense. I kind of had already some friends down there. It was definitely like.
Did you live there, or were you commuting from San Andreas?
I moved out when I was like 17.
Oh.
And then just went down there for a couple years. It took me 2 years to get my AA, and then transferred.
So how
it was kind of a blur.
How were you and Carpool Tunnel formed?
Basically, when we moved, and then we just kind of met.
I know, but how old were you?
20.
Wow. And now you're
Maybe 19 actually. Wait, let me. No, I would have been 20 years old.
20, and
like I might have just been 19 and turned 20 when I met like Bradley.
Like freshly 20.
Yes.
Yeah. That saying does not roll off the tongue correctly. But like, so if you were 20, you're what now? You're 27, 26?
25.
Wow. Wow.
Aging.
I'm sorry, bro. I just called you old. That's crazy. So, over like a 5-year span, like, what do you think has been the biggest struggle? Because I don't know, like, and this is no shot at like the Bay Area music scene. I love it. It's where I'm from. But I do feel like a lot of bands in that scene do end up struggling with longevity. And I don't even think I think that's every band in general. I don't think that's probably exclusive to the Bay Area music scene. But what do you attribute your guys' longevity to? Like, what do you think was the most difficult aspect in keeping together like the band the entire time, this whole time, and like just keep putting out stuff?
I would say communication's obviously a big thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just feels like the easy answer. I don't know. I mean, we're all like just super passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
And we all kind of see it as a long-term thing, which I think in order for it to happen, like we all have to have that mindset, you know?
Yeah.
And there's like something beautiful about like all those bands that like only happen for a short amount of time.
That's true. You know? Yeah, I agree.
Because you just had to be there to experience it, you know? Like, and we were part of that scene. And like I still feel part of that scene. It's like kind of weird now that we've moved, and I don't know, it just feels like this kind of like thing that's stuck in time that I like remember and I have these great memories from. But the longevity, it's definitely an ongoing thing, you know. It's just like it feels like very much like a business.
Yeah.
But it's like amazing that I get to like obviously do what I love and create for that. But yeah, just like making sure our relationships also internally in the band are healthy is like definitely.
Do you think you struggle with that? Like the fact that it now has become more of a business thing? Because that is one thing. Even when you look at like the ethos of like the music scene that like you and me both kind of come from, it's like it's weird. I don't think this was so much a case like in our time, but like if you go back and you look at like the history of like all these bands who like played in Gilman and shit in the 80s, it's like they were like frowned upon for like signing or like frowned upon for like getting big. And I really hate that mindset. I really resent it. But I also feel like there probably is, like I would imagine, a lot of like difficulties and stress and anxiety that comes when what you just once did for fun becomes a career. Like, was it really stressful when, you guys got signed and then stuff started becoming more business-like and you had to be more official with it? Like, how'd you kind of balance that?
It's definitely like something it took getting used to.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still getting used to it, but, and I wish I had like even more time to devote to it. It's not quite at that level to where I can like, kind of like, shift it and like not have a day job and like commit all that time. So it's like, that's probably the part I struggle with the most is like trying to balance, having a job, paying bills, and then having time at the end of the day to be like, okay, now I want to work on Carpool Tunnel stuff, because like I'm not, we're not getting paid as much for that. So it just feels like a grind,
Yeah.
And if like I feel like I have to grind double the amount to be able to give what I want to like give to the Carpool Tunnel project, like, so it's tough because it's like, I work 9 hours a day and then you get off and you're like, oh, I want to make content,
Yeah. No, dude, trust me, I relate to that. I literally have work today. Like that's why I want to do this so early. But I relate to that. And it gets really hard because, I don't know, I mean, you're like a new LA resident. I'm a new LA resident. I'd ask you in that regard, do you ever struggle with comparing yourself to people who get to do their creative thing or they're full-time, 24/7? Because I think that I struggle with that. That's one thing I think I've realized in LA. It's really easy to do. I've only been here like 2.5 months, but I've very quickly learned that it's really easy to start comparing yourself to people. Like that's something I've struggled with because I'm not even going to act like I'm not. Like I'm very jealous of people who get to do their creative thing full time. That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm happy for them. But obviously I want that. Obviously you want that. Obviously every creative person wants that. So do you ever struggle with that comparison?
Definitely. But I think like just to kind of throw it back at you, I feel like you're doing what I was talking about. Like you're doing the double grind. You know? Like you're going to work after this, but you're also doing what you want in the morning in the free time. Like when a lot of people would be like, I'm gonna relax and like take it easy, you know, because like I've earned it because I already worked that 8 hours, you know, towards something else. So it's like I'm sure a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
You know? And it's really tough. It's really tough because like you want to devote more time to that passion, you know? And yeah, I do see a lot of people that get to do that full time. But I think a lot of those people have done what that double grind to be able to get to that point. And
I think that's
earned
true.
it, you know? So I think that's a huge thing. And like I try to remind myself that I'm like, okay, like, you know, if I keep doing this, eventually I won't have to just do both. I'll just be able to do the one, you know?
Yeah. For me, it's kind of like an escape almost. Because, I mean, I assume you kind of relate to this. Like, this is what I love. Like, I love this more than anything else in the world. So it's like, for me, it's like when I have a shitty day at work, like nothing makes me happier than working on Above the Bridge stuff. Like, I would imagine, like, working on Carpool stuff is kind of like that one thing that you can do outside of work that is like, wow, like, I'm still here. You know, you remember why you're here.
Yeah. And I mean, like, just being in the studio this second week is like, it feels like I got to, like, step into this room that was just like isolated from everything else. Like I just kind of got to narrow in on this thing, you know, and not have to think about anything else.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's when I feel like we can be our most creative too. We're just very much in that headspace for the whole week.
Kind of on that note, I know you guys are recording the second record right now. We were talking about this like briefly a second ago, but I think it does kind of tie into the whole work conversation. How have you been able to like balance? Because you told me you're in there 60 hours a week, right? You've been in the studio 60 hours a week for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so we've done 2 week stretches, but kind of like there was 3 weeks in between.
Yeah,
it's really nice because we got to go home and like sit on things and digest it. Like sometimes it just feels if like you did it all at once, it would just kind of like be almost like this whole like all one thought throughout, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just like you went through this like 3 week thing, you're like, oh, okay, there it is, you know? But now we kind of like get to breathe and like digest it a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
And then like revisit it and like with fresh eyes and like be able to kind of, I don't know, hear things that we didn't hear before. Or maybe you changed your mind on something.
Yeah, of course. How have you balanced like so those weeks where you're recording? Are you working on at your day job at all? Or are you taking those off? No. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thank God for unlimited PTO.
What's PTO?
Like
paid time off?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Shout out to Crowdsource. That's you work for, right?
Crowdsurf.
Yeah. What exactly do they do? I'm sorry.
We do like digital marketing.
Okay.
For, like artists. So like
that's cool.
Now it's cool because like I'm working. My day job is in the music business, so it does feel like I'm just kind of like, I don't know, involved with music all day.
I want to talk to you more about that, but I also want to hear about the record first.
Oh yeah, no, go back.
Because okay, so you guys are in there 60 hours a week. What has the recording process been like, recording in LA versus recording in the city? Because the first record you guys kind of all just did at home, right?
Well, no, we actually did it in Hollywood.
You did the first record in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Oh, the same studio?
In this kind of, I guess it wasn't little, but you know, it's like a studio in West Hollywood. It was called Rev 9 Recordings. It was just like happened to be through a friend's band that connected us to. They were basically like, oh, we did our last record here, so and we were like, okay, cool. You know, this record sounds good, so we'll take you up on it, and that's where we ended up going. And we recorded that in October of 2019. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't release it until February 2021.
Why was that timeline so long? Just because it took...
Because of the pandemic hit.
Yeah, like that's right. Yeah, and you went to tour and everything.
We had a tour planned. That got canceled. And then we just like kind of had this record, you know? We were like... And then we spent like a good amount of like... Probably the first 6 months when everything was happening. Like shopping it around. Shout out to Michael.
Shout out Michael.
Because he helped us like also just like kind of get over the fear of just like cold emailing a lot of people.
That's funny. He actually helped me with that too. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like so we just started cold emailing like booking agents, labels. Like we would just sit. I just remember we were sitting there in the garage and we had bought these embroidery machines.
Yeah.
Also, Michael convinced us to get these embroidery machines to make these shirts. So we like bought like, I don't know, like 800, like six to 800 shirts.
Holy
like
shit.
And we're like, we have all this time. We're at home. Why don't we just make merch, you know? Like, and so we kind of sat in this garage and changed out these shirts. Each one would take like 20 to 30 minutes in between, like setting it up.
Oh my God.
Putting it on the
per
machine.
shirt? And you had 600 of them?
Yeah.
That's insane.
We did not do them all. We definitely did not do them. Some people probably have them though. They're like Carpool Tunnel shirts, and it just says like kind of Carpool Tunnel.
Oh, in the blue?
Embroidered. There is ones that are blue.
It's the puff letters?
Yeah.
I have one right now.
Yeah. That's one of the embroidered machines.
I bought one. Really? Mm-hmm. Where did I buy that? Sometime in like the 10 times I've seen you guys. At some point I must have bought it. That's so funny. But that was like how you spent your pandemic, just doing that?
Yeah, that was one of the I want to say we probably made like maybe 200 maybe. I don't, they take a long time.
Yeah.
Like, Michael like did a lot of them. Like, and he was I was living in Daly City at the time. And I had this garage downstairs. And he was sleeping on my couch, and we were just to be in the Bay Area because he wanted obviously to be around us all and like what we were doing. And he would sit down there in the garage and like we would help him as much as possible, but I would like go to work sometimes and he would just stay home and make shirts down there in the garage. Like, and then we would like spend most of the time like sitting down there, like Bradley, me and Michael, just like sitting there cold emailing people.
Were you? It's interesting that you say you were shopping that album a lot, because to me, in my mind, Pure Noise makes like way too much sense for it not to be a thing that was just like instant, like, oh yeah, like for sure, like we'd love to put this record out. Were you guys like looking at other labels and like what they had to offer? Because like to me, I feel like, I don't know, you guys are too Bay Area for Pure Noise to not make perfect sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and we had been offered like three or four record deals.
Yeah.
Like kind of just sketchy ones. Like
independent labels or?
Yeah, a couple independent ones. One of them like our, like who recorded our Bloom. Like also they just like kind of offered.
Oh.
To like kind of like form a label.
Oh, wow.
And we just like, I don't know how much I should talk on it, but I'm just going to say we dodged some bullets.
Yeah.
Like, just like kind of just shady things. Like like looking back, if we would have signed them, like we would have been like definitely taken advantage of. Just like in terms of the deal and how much like cut they wanted of stuff. Like some of the deals like wanted like cuts of our merch, which is just like.
That's a little bizarre.
For most record contracts is just kind of unheard of. Especially for like kind of like labels like our size, like Pure Noise.
Especially if you're making your own your own merch, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like could you imagine like we're sitting there making our embroidered shirts and they want 50% of it?
Yeah, what? Like, what do they have to do with this at all?
Because they're associated with the name.
yeah, literally. No, that makes zero sense. So at that point, like, how did kind of getting signed when you were putting out Bloom like change everything? So you get signed. And is the next move like, okay, like let's get this record out now? Or like how long was the overlap there?
We felt that way. Like we want like, it was like once you already have this thing done, we're just like, we want to share this with like our fans.
Yeah, of course.
Like, people that listen to our music. Because we're like, we get equally as excited, you know? Like we're just like stoked. Like even with like this record right now, we're just like, working on it as much as possible. Like these songs are developing into things that we could never imagine, and like we're just like excited to release them. But going back, what were we just talking
about? Getting signed.
Getting signed, right? So yeah, we dodged those bullets with those other contracts, and just happened to like sit on the record long enough to where like we had cold emailed it to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I want to say we had started like, cause we recorded October 2019. And then for like the 2-3 months after that, we were like, before the pandemic hit in like March, we were basically just shopping at the booking agents, record labels. And then the pandemic hit, and we were kind of in talks with Pure Noise. Like, I remember being, like, out in front of, like, one of my business finals. Like, for, I think this was my senior year now. So I was, like, about to go into, like, I don't know, like, some business 170 crazy final for the, you know, the semester.
Yeah.
And I was out on the phone with, like, the record label owner. And, like, the guys all on the phone, like Danny, Bradley, Spencer. And we were just, it was just like, I don't know, it went super well, but it was just like,
it's like
one of those things where it's like, we had that phone call and then like 3-4 months go by and then the pandemic hit and it was like,
everything's on pause.
Like, is this thing actually going to still happen? And like, luckily the label like still wanted to sign us despite everything that was happening. Cause like, I mean, we lost a whole tour. It was like, we had no idea what was going to happen, you know?
Especially for a band of your caliber where you guys are such a live band, I feel like. Like, so much what you guys do is live performances. So that had to be like, that had to be such a gut-wrenching moment. Like, I remember we talked about this the first time, and you said it was kind of like putting out the record in that period was very like, it was like a double feeling. I remember you told me that, because you said it was like, very much like, oh, like, we're happy this music's out, but we want to play it live.
Yeah. And I only think we released it in February. I don't think we got to play it live until July of that year.
Do you remember the first show?
Mm-hmm. It was Cornerstone in Berkeley with Small Crush.
Okay.
And the Moondrops. It was a really good lineup.
Yeah, that is a good lineup.
It was a good show.
Yeah, that's sick. I bet the feeling of that was probably super, super crazy.
Oh, it was so cool. I remember playing Empty Faces. And there was this big disco ball, and people were just like, I felt like the excitement and just like happiness in the room. And, like, being able to have this live music again.
That's beautiful.
Because some of those were the first shows, and it was still like questionable. It was like, should we be having these?
It was so weird in the beginning.
Yeah,
it was so weird. I remember very specifically, like, I feel like this is a story I'll tell my kids. I remember during the pandemic, I was hiking like every single day because it was like just keeping me sane. Like, I literally like got to the point where I was looking up like, okay, what's another random East Bay trail that I can just like go down today and do like a 10-mile and just like tune out and act like the world isn't like in shambles. And that was like what I did every single day. But I remember really specifically, I listened to a lot of different podcasts, but I listened to Rick Rubin's podcast a lot when I was hiking during that time. And I remember he had this one conversation with Ben Folds, and they were talking about like when they think live music will come back. And he kind of noted, he was like, yeah, I don't think it'll all come back at once. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, in my head, I was like, there's no way it'll be like, oh, like, we didn't have live music and then one day we just do, you know? It was always going to be very gradual, like the masks and the social distancing. But I didn't feel like that was really what happened. Like, I feel like it more or less went from like, we don't have this at all. It's like, we have everything back. And I was thankful for that. I mean, it was a little scary. Like, in the beginning, dude, shows felt weird. Like, I felt really weird going to shows for the first couple of weeks. But then I felt like normal again. And I just realized how much I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, we felt like touring was really weird. I mean, we definitely just tried to wear masks as much as possible, you know.
What was the tour you guys did after COVID, like right post-COVID?
We did one in November of 2021.
Oh, that was the Breakup Shoes one?
We did one with Small Crush, actually, in November. We did kind of like a West Coast run with them, like starting up in Seattle and went all the way down to like San Diego. And I think it was like 11 or 13 shows or something like that. And then we did one in February with Breakup Shoes and went all the way like out to Texas and stuff like that.
You guys have like toured a lot of times, right? Like, how many times now have you like been on tour?
I don't know. I guess I haven't been keeping track, but I want to say like 6 or 7.
Maybe
a little more than that? I mean, we did a lot of one-off shows for like a long time. Like, we would just kind of like drive to San Diego on a whim.
Jesus Christ.
We like got offered a show and it was like, oh, like, you know, on Saturday, and we would like go there, come back, and then go back to school or whatever it was, you know.
That's insane. So how many of those tours were like post-label? Like, were you guys doing independent tours before that?
Yeah.
Were you just booking those yourself? Like, full, like, okay, let's like just make a route. Let's make a route and find dates that line up on these spots.
The first couple tours we did, we had to do it like that. And then it kind of just like, as we as we just took shows, like we would, first when we started off, we would like book shows for ourselves, or like hit up another band and be like, hey, you want to like get a bill, at this venue, and then it just kind of became its like own independent living thing. Like we would just check our DMs, our emails, and people would be like, do you want to play on this date? And we would just like I want to say the first 2 years we would just say yes to everything.
Yeah. Do you guys ever say no?
Not that I can really think of. We probably like, of course, said no if it like didn't make sense with our schedule.
Yeah.
Like somebody like had something important, or it was a long drive and just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, we were gonna lose money, like a ridiculous amount or something. But yeah, I would just like we would just say yes to everything.
Do you kind of attribute like the growth of Carpool Tunnel and like your guys' success and getting the deal and everything? Do you think like a big part of that is because of the live presence you built?
Definitely.
And like how much you guys played live?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think if we played as much as we did, we'd even be the band we are today.
Yeah. And
it's
I feel
like pretty crucial.
Yeah.
Like how we, got like a organic fan base,
Yeah.
And I'm like so thankful for that.
'Cause that's the thing. Like there's artists that have like millions of streams but don't have a fan base. You guys have a fan base. Like I feel like that just comes from playing live for sure. And I feel like that's kind of an aspect of this that people kind of discredit in regards to like work ethic. It's like, dude, to take every single gig you could offer, that is such a commitment. Like that takes so many hours, so much out of your life. Like you essentially have to make it your life. And I feel like that's something people discredit a little bit. And I often feel like, like obviously you can grow through the internet. Like that is beyond proven. Everybody knows that. But at the same time, I do feel like some people forget about the fact that like growing a fan base really happens better in person. Like you can get listeners online, but I feel like in person is where you get a fan base.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
It's difficult. Since you now have like been not only a musician for like a good amount of time, but also now you work in the music industry too. How has it been kind of like contrasting those two sides? Like, do you think you have a different perspective because you're like a musician that now works in the industry to do like marketing stuff?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I'm like super thankful for my job because it's like helped me gain a lot of perspective on how to like kind of run our own business,
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting, like seeing both sides of it. But I do find there's like a lot of people in the industry that are musicians.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of cool to connect with those people too, and just kind of gain their like insights and like how they've gotten to the point where they are. Whether it's like they do A&R at a major or something, or just like are on the digital end like I am. It's just kind of cool to connect with them and like see how they like view it differently than I do.
Has working in marketing, like on the music industry side of things, like helped a lot of how you look at your Carpool stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of just like a lot of like technical things that I've learned,
What is your day to day? Like, what do you like do?
I just like kind of help run like artist socials. So I just like help on all platforms. I'm just like delve deep into Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff. And I just like concentrate on like optimizing stuff for artists and stuff like that.
Yeah, like an analytical basis. Did you get that job, do you think, because of your experience with Carpool? Or was it like cause you graduated school, right?
Yeah, I graduated in 2021 and then was still kind of working in like restaurants.
Yeah.
Like bartending, managed a brewery for a little bit. And then that's when I like, after that job, I was like, I need to get a job like in something I'm like, I really want to do.
Yeah.
And I like I was applying for stuff for like months, like just kind of feeling helpless at a certain point. Like, I'm like, am I going to be able to get a job in like something like because I was like telling myself, I don't want to go back into like, into hospitality.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to do it.
I feel you.
I had been doing it for like 7 years. And like, not that I think it's a great career for a lot of people. Especially
it's very
like
hard.
Bartenders, especially if you want to like pursue something you're passionate about. And it helped me like pursue music for such a long time, which it's like a great job to like have to be able to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I kind of like saw myself as like, oh, I want to like kind of have a schedule. You know, I want to work
Yeah.
Monday through Friday if I can.
And that doesn't happen when you're working in restaurants.
No, no.
You work lunch today, you work dinner tomorrow, you work lunch the next day, and then dinner the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and then I kind of just decided I didn't want to go back to that because I didn't want to see myself doing that for that long.
Yeah.
And just wanted to get experience in something else. So I decided to just keep applying things. And I was like on LinkedIn, like every day, like applying to like 4 or 5 jobs a day. And it was just like tiring. It was so tiring. Cause like I would try to take them serious. I like rewrite the cover letter.
Yeah.
Each time. And it's just draining after a while.
Yeah, of course. Especially if you're getting like no.
Mm-hmm. Or just no response.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's even
like
worse.
That's the modern age, is like literally
Yeah.
no response. Or like you get that automated email reply like months later. It's like, sorry, like.
Unfortunately, this position has been filled. Yeah. Do you ultimately, are you happy that you made that switch and now you work in music? Like, do you think you're happier doing what you do now opposed to working in restaurants and stuff? Because that's honestly something I've struggled with a lot. And I feel like, I don't know, I haven't really tried a lot, but I feel like part of me, I don't know if I could get a job in music if I really tried. I mean, I don't have a degree, but I do have a bit of a portfolio like with AboveTheBridge stuff. So hopefully that could like leverage, you know, to get some job in music. But I've I think I'm where you were at, because I've accepted that like I'm not going to make as much money doing that as I do serving tables. Mm-hmm. But it's very much like a hard line to toe. Like, do you think you got this job like more based on your carpool experience or more based on like your degree?
Kind of, I would say, I don't know how much it is the degree.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I've realized about my degree is it's like kind of just like this line on LinkedIn and a line on my resume, you know, that like says I did it. Like, but I don't do anything in finance. It's like,
oh, that's right. That's right. Your degree's in finance.
Yeah. So it's just funny because like I could probably have a degree in anything.
Yeah.
But I would say it is like a lot of my experience in Carpool Tunnel, you know, like I sold that on my side, and I used it as a lot of experience because I mean, like,
it's because we're
selling, a lot of
yeah.
insight. It's a lot of insight, you know, like into stuff. And like, I think more and more like businesses in the music industry are looking to like, of course, connect with artists, you know?
Yeah.
Especially with digital, because you're kind of like, you're directly working with artists, and you're like, you know what it's like to be in their shoes. You know, it's like too much to ask them to do, especially when it comes to like making content, and like, I know what I wouldn't want to be asked.
Like, you know what's realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, you know, their expectations and stuff like that. So I think that's super helpful. I wanted to touch back on what you were talking about, the hiking in the podcast. So wait, you did a lot of hiking, like, at the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah. I know you're a big hike person.
Yeah. I wanted to dive into that subject.
Yeah, I know how you backpack. You backpack a lot, right? That's our connection, how we know Ayush. Mm-hmm. Because you know Ayush because you backpack with him. Shout out Ayush. Good ass guy. But apparently he's moving to LA.
He is.
Yeah.
I just actually went on a hike with him last weekend.
That's crazy. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, he was here the other day too. I love that guy. But yeah, that was like a funny connection. How you knew Ayush through like backpacking stuff, and then I knew him through like my friend who like went to school with him. Anyway, yeah, I love hiking. I want to get more into backpacking, but I like literally there was a period in my life where like I was hiking Mount Diablo every single day. I think I've done every trail in like the East, like most of the trails in the East Bay. Like almost everything on Mount Diablo. I've done like all the Black Diamond stuff. Like I've done a lot of Mission Peak stuff. As much as there is to do Mission Peak, it's not that big. But like I mean, I've done a lot. I think you've done a lot more than me. But
I mean, I haven't done all the East Bay trails. I've done.
Let's go hit Mount Diablo.
Yeah, you know, I've never ended up doing that. Funny enough, I don't know why, but I definitely did like equally as hard hikes around the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Mostly a lot of stuff up in the North Bay. Mm-hmm. In like Point Reyes area, we go up to a lot.
Point Reyes is beautiful, dude. My God.
I had this one area at Mount Tam that was called Cataract Falls.
Yeah, because you guys weren't even that. You guys were right there. You were like damn near like what 20 minutes from Mount Tam.
Yeah, 20-25, no traffic. I mean, honestly, the only downside was that you have to pay the $10 toll coming back.
Oh yeah, there's no way
So it was
around
like
it.
kind of a deterrent, especially when gas prices were starting to go up. I was like, oh shit.
Especially when you're only on the bridge for like 2 seconds, right? Because you just take that first Sausalito exit, don't you, to get to like where the Marin Headlands are and stuff. That's so brutal.
Yeah, it is brutal, but it's beautiful up there. Lots of stuff out in Yosemite, Desolation Wilderness out in like Tahoe area.
Yeah,
area's awesome,
dude. Yeah,
like,
I like for I think 3-4 years every single summer would camp in Markleyville. Do you know where Markleyville is?
No.
It's a bit like it would be a little south of Tahoe. It's like south of Truckee, but I'd camp there. Like at least once every summer for the past like 4 or 5 years, and me and all my friends would go and we would just trout fish and we just can't. Oh, it's so fun, man. I love that place like with the bottom of my heart. Like that's one of my happiest places in the world.
Yeah, that's a good area. I really like Truckee. Like we have a special like to connect it all back to the band. Like we have a really special connection with Truckee. Like we've gone to Reno a lot.
You guys play there a lot, right?
Yeah, there's a great like group of just people that show up to come and see us. Like, every single time we're there. But one of the special things about going there is you have to drive. I'm forgetting what the freeway is there. I think it technically is the 80 East.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
it just goes all the way to Reno. If you just keep taking it, it goes like past Tahoe. But it drives along like the Truckee River.
Dude. Oh, yeah, continue.
I have so many. I got one spot that we've always stopped. Like depending on the weather, of course, it's like cold as shit. Like we're not gonna get out of it. But we would stop and just like basically just like jump into the river. Like it's like pretty deep river. Like there's a lot of water in there.
That's so funny that you say that. So my cousins live in Truckee. Truckee is like the population of Truckee is like incredibly low. Like nobody lives there, but my cousins are from there, so I would go there every single summer as well. And dude, it's so cool. They live like damn near on the Truckee River.
Pretty.
Yeah.
So
my god, it's gorgeous, dude. Like I have so many memories. Me and my cousin going down there. We'd catch like gardener snakes and like, dude. Part of me wonders if like we were around the same spot.
Yeah, no, it's possible. And the funny thing is, if you like look at our vinyl, there's like a sleeve inside with all the lyrics. The other side is the photo of us at the Truckee River.
That's so cool. That's so sick.
So it's kind of like all the photos like kind of on our album art is just kind of from our travels like on tour.
Would you guys? Because I know you guys were like van touring for years. You guys are the definition of doing that. Would you like? Was that a common thing? Like, would you stop if you found like a cool spot of wilderness or a cool trail and go do it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the biggest hiker out of the band.
Yeah.
So it would obviously be really hard to convince, I think, everyone to do like a huge hike. But, we definitely like, I think one of the magical things about touring too is like we would just come across like these just beautiful spots. I mean, I forget what tour it was, but we just came across like this like kind of turn off, and there was just like this beautiful river, and it was like golden hour. There's this beautiful sunset and like just amazing colors. I want to say we were like somewhere in like Utah going up to like Wyoming or something. It was just like one of those magical moments where it was just like there at the perfect time. You know?
That's so cool. That's kind of like the picture of your guys' album cover, right? That's on the Salt Flats, right?
Yeah, that was just kind of like from what we just like decided to stop at the Salt Flats just for a little bit because we just thought it would be cool, and that's where we took all those photos. And we didn't think of it at the time as like, oh, this is gonna be our album cover.
Yeah,
it's just we just happened to have it, and we looked back at it, and we're like, this is pretty cool. Like,
no, it's such a cool damn photo, dude.
And it like represents, I don't know, kind of what we are as a band. Like we were very much a live band at the time. That album was very much like a live kind of sounding album, you know, like we wanted to sound like a band on that record.
I like that. No, I feel like I really know what you mean by that. Because it's very true. Like, I feel like the antithesis of what you guys are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I wouldn't want to assume, but I feel like a lot of what you guys are is from your shows. You know, like you guys very much are a live band, and that's kind of exemplified in the way that you play live. I think it's exemplified in like the first record you said. On the new project, I know you mentioned you're doing more overdubs and stuff opposed to like live recording. Are you kind of trying to like transcend like that aspect of it? Or are you trying to still keep that? Or are you trying to look at it through like a different lens? Or how's the recording process of the new record been different than the last one?
Yeah, I think the different lens is a good way to kind of describe it, because it definitely like sounds like a Carpool record.
Yeah.
Like it's like staged true to ourselves, but we're adding things like we've never, I don't know, messed with. Like we're juniors getting in there in the studio and like playing these amazing key parts.
That's so cool.
On, like upright pianos, and like there's some grand piano on a couple songs, and it's just like we're trying to take everything that we love from the music we listen to almost in a way, and like just apply it to what we've already like kind of written and worked on, and it's really cool stuff. It's just like, it definitely is like taking our music to the next level in a way.
Like more experimentation, like, because I mean, it's not like the last record, there weren't really like a lot of keys or anything like that. Like, are you trying to experiment with like more instruments and stuff like that?
Yeah, to a certain degree. We don't want to like, it doesn't like sound like almost like experimental in a way, but it's like very more like just kind of hashed out, like
grandiose.
Yeah, and it almost feels like it's communicating our like emotion behind the music even more. Like, and I think that's like what the pianos also add, and stuff like that. And we're adding all these cool percussion stuff that Junior's been doing, and lots more harmonies.
Oh, sick.
Like doing 4-part harmonies at some point.
That's so cool. There's the one song you guys played live where you guys all sung it. That one I remember. That was like a defining moment in my head from like seeing you guys last, because it was like, holy shit, that was very different. Mm-hmm. I remember. Is that one on the record?
It is.
Yeah, that song's crazy.
Yeah. So a lot of the ones that we've been adding that are like new songs playing live are ones that are on the record.
Oh, that's so fun.
So
in terms of like a guiding emotion, like for this record opposed to the last one, do you feel, because I know you said the emotions on this record feel a bit more real to you. Do you think like the feeling in the studio for this record is a defining feeling versus the last one? Because I feel it's very different times, right? I feel like in your life, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the last one, it was like you didn't know it, but this crazy pandemic was coming. You guys were still in that like first record phase, I would imagine. And now it's like you live in LA. It's a different group. You guys are doing different things. Like, is there a different emotion, you think, in the studio that's present opposed to the last one?
Oh, yeah. Like the first record was very like coming of age, and we were just so excited. And I remember being like, oh, 2020, you know? Like
yeah.
The 20s of, you know, the 21st century. Like, like big things are going to happen, you know? And then, you know, obviously everything happened and it felt so slowed down, but I think that really shows with this record, like everything that happened in a way. Like we went to this like tiny house, or not tiny house, but a house out in Santa Cruz that was like Bradley's grandma's house at the time. And she just like kindly let us go there for like 3 months at the beginning. And we just like set up a whole setup kind of like this. Like had mics, headphones, and just played music for like 10 hours a day.
And that was like the writing of this record?
A lot of the, like 4 of the songs are kind of from like those sessions and like what we were doing. And it's like very much influenced kind of like by our environment. Like especially now that I'm looking back. We've written like a lot of our music like on porches and stuff like that. Like funny. Out on our house. Like
your porch is sick.
Yeah, that's a really good porch.
Yeah.
And like even the first house I lived in San Jose had a porch. Our house in San Francisco didn't really have one, but it had a nice backyard, and we had like set up a studio. But that house out in Santa Cruz, when the pandemic happened, like that had like a big deck and like looked out into like redwood trees, and like we finally could see like stars, you know, because there was like no light pollution there.
Yeah.
And we would write a lot like out on this deck. And I think like now looking back, like it makes a lot of sense like why these songs sound the way they do, because like they came from the inspiration that was like found at that place, you know. Even the song that we like kind of have, this is titled Moon Song right now, was like we were writing it like in the living room, and it just like happened to be like pretty late, like I want to say like 10 o'clock, almost 11 p.m. and we're like, should we be like be playing drums right now? Like,
we play drums way too late. Like this house will have drums going till like we have the coolest fucking neighbors ever, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
This was just like, we were kind of like, we didn't know anything about the neighbors at this place. And it was like pretty quiet neighborhood. And it was like in a, like kind of in like this ravine. So it's like the drums like echoed everywhere.
Oh,
so it was like 11 p.m. We're like, okay. But we were still just playing, and we happened to just write this song. And it was just like one of those moments where the song like all came out in like 20 minutes. 30 minutes, you know, like somebody came up with something and we're like, yeah, what was that? You know, and like played on it and we're like, oh, this is a really cool song. Like lyrics kind of just came out naturally. I think like the chorus of the song is like literally the same thing I sung like just off the top of my head. And at that time there was like a moon, like this house had these like big windows, like almost like as tall as how like almost 2 stories of just like these tall windows in the living room. So it was like kind of very boomy room for drums. And there's like the moon was like starting to rise, like kind of over the hill. And the song just kind of like gives like very 50s, like almost like you're in a ballroom in a way.
Yeah.
Or like a old high school prom. And I don't know, it just like the feeling of it made sense with what was happening. So we called it Moon Song.
Yeah. I remember touching on kind of a similar thing like when we first did that interview like last year. And I remember you talking about how like San Francisco influenced your music. I often feel like that's something that's not talked about, like how much where you are influences the music that you're making. Like, do you feel like a lot of this record is maybe inspired by the places you recorded it at, or not recorded at, but just wrote these songs at? Like, were they a lot of different places?
Yeah, like 4 of them were written at that place I was talking about in Santa Cruz, and then also just like various places. Like Bradley and I have been living together since the pandemic happened. We moved in at a place back in the Sunset District in San Francisco, and then we moved back somehow to our original house that we had in San Francisco.
That's crazy.
It was just like one of those things where like his brother kept it, and then we had like some friends that moved in, and then we just happened to like, they were like, oh, we're moving out, and we're like, oh, well, is it available, you know? And we moved back into our original spot. It was like, it was really weird, like, especially because like that's where we had written like a lot of the Bloom record. And we hadn't been there since like, or at least I hadn't been there since like 2018 or something like that. So it was really cool to go back into that space. And that's where like a decent like handful of the last songs for this record were written basically. And we're still like obviously hashing things out, but like the rest of it's kind of written down LA. So
so there was a good portion that's written in LA. Do you think
I would say so.
Do you think this record would sound different if it was entirely written in LA? Like, do you feel like the writing process is different here?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you kind of just, I feel like as, I don't know, musician, I just kind of absorb my environment like a sponge, you know? That's why I feel so good about going out in nature.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like I'd like soak up that environment. So I would say definitely, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was saying, how's the nature been down here? Like, that's something I've struggled to find so far. I haven't looked a ton because I've been so fucking busy, honestly. But like, if there's some good spots, bro, put me on. We should hike.
There's some really good spots.
Where have you been so far?
You kind of have to drive, obviously, as being in LA entails. But like, I mean, for sure, obviously, the obvious ones are Joshua Tree.
I really want to go to Joshua Tree soon.
Like the Eastern Sierras.
Yeah.
Kind of near out by Whitney. Blew my mind. Like seriously, like I'm such a Yosemite lover. But going to like we went to like Whitney Portal area. And we went up to this lake called Mason Lake, which is it's basically like you go into this like little campsite out in Whitney. And you're basically up, I think like up at like 8,500 feet or something like that, like just at this campground. And there's like the hike to Whitney, and then there's like a couple other hikes, and one of these hikes was up to this place called Mason Lake, which is up at like 11. You can fact check me on this, but I want to say it's like 11,000 something, like 11,300 feet or something like that. So it's pretty high up there, like obviously compared to where we are right now. But it was like a 4 or 5 mile hike, just all uphill. So it was a hard hike.
Yeah.
Doable. But we did it in like October when it wasn't like
hot
100 degrees
yeah,
out. If it was hot, I couldn't imagine doing that. Especially because you got like a 40-pound pack on your back.
Yeah.
And you're just lugging it up this hill.
Yeah, Jesus.
But one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
And how far was that from here?
It's like 2.5 hours.
That's not that bad.
Yeah.
Cause I've been missing it, dude. I really have, and I feel like I don't know. One thing I struggle with for sure is trying to like separate myself from what I do, and giving myself like time to go enjoy my passions. One of those being nature, and I feel like I often get so wrapped up in like I gotta work 24/7. I gotta work every single day. Sigma grind set. That like I'm like, wow, there's so much beautiful things that I can be enjoying outside of what I do that also make me happy, and I think I need to give myself more of that time. Do you ever struggle balancing that? Like, do you ever? I don't know. Like, to me, I feel like, I don't know. I get the sense you have a better balance on it than I do. But I feel like, but do you
I'm still learning.
Yeah, but do you ever struggle with that, though? Like, you know, like if you're ever doing something you'd like to be doing or having fun or pastime or whatever, do you ever struggle with the thought that, like, wow, like maybe I should be working on more music right now?
I mean, definitely for the nature and music, for sure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a part of me would give up everything just to go backpacking for a year.
I feel that, dude.
Like I love music, you know. I'm so passionate about music, but I'm also equally passionate about nature and just like exploring and being out there. And I think they kind of go hand in hand, because I feel like when I go and I take a break and go out somewhere backpacking or even just a trip camping is like enough to kind of be a reset in a way.
Like scratch that itch.
Mm-hmm. And just like it just takes, I know you get some time to like digest stuff and like, and get like some inspiration as well. Like I've written a lot of songs out of nature too.
Yeah.
If I have the chance to bring an instrument, it's a little tough to bring in backpacking.
Yeah. Have you seen those travel guitars? Like the travel guitars that you can like take the neck off of and then like reconnect the neck, and they're for like backpacking. Those are so sick, dude.
Yeah, I've wanted something like that for a really long time.
That'd be so cool.
Because it'd just be nice to have it out there.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely a limit. Or you could, you know, you could probably fit like a ukulele and like a pack if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Bring a drum pad maybe. Some hand drums.
I've done it before. Like I've backpacked with a friend that brought one of those like Martin travel guitars too. We all just kind of carried it separately and took turns.
That's cool. One thing
that was fun.
One thing I've like really wanted to do like in the future, I'd love to like shoot live sessions of musicians like playing in nature. Have you ever seen do you know what La Blogdake is?
It's not the like crazy metal band that played on that rock, right?
No. I don't know the crazy metal band that played on the rock.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But
I really don't know the name, not to sidetrack your
you're good.
I don't know what the name it is, but there's this video of this band. It's like playing on this like really thin rock.
Whoa.
Like it almost looks like you can't like you can't stand on it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard, but you could probably find it. I'm sure if you looked up on YouTube and you said like heavy metal band like playing on rock, sure it would,
heavy metal band playing on a rock. The mental image that I have in my head is what is the Coldplay record with the Scientist on it? That album cover.
That's a good representation
of the metal band playing on the rock.
I know what you're talking about. knowledge of Coldplay's.
You gotta
It's pretty small.
brush up on the Coldplay discography.
Yeah, I should. No.
That was one record. Dude, that album cover to me as a kid, 'cause my dad loves Coldplay. As a kid, like that was one album. It was like that, and then Nevermind. I'd always look at without any knowledge of the bands and be like, wow, like what the fuck is this picture? Like I remember thinking that was so weird growing up.
Yeah.
But La Bloc de Quai, they're like this. They're this music discovery platform, kind of similar to what we do, but they shoot live sessions. But their thing is like they shoot them in the craziest places, and I really like wanted to like use that idea for a long time and really go like I think it'd be so cool to record musicians in nature playing music. Like once I can do this full time, I really want to invest time into that because it's so cool what they do, and they find like musicians in like these like it's almost like their natural habitat in a weird way. Like there's this one video that I'm obsessed with. One of my favorite albums ever is From a Forever Ago by Bon Iver. It's like one of my favorite albums ever. I feel like that album's have you listened to it front to back?
I don't think so.
I think you'd love it, dude, because the story behind it is like Bon Iver wrote it in this cabin in Wisconsin in the winter while he was snowed in. He wrote the entire record on just a laptop and his acoustic guitar. And he wrote the entire record, just him, his guitar, and his laptop at his absolute lowest in nature, living in this cabin when he was the most depressed he's ever been. It's one of the most depressing, like decrepit records you've ever heard. Like, but yeah, but anyway, like that album is so like lonely. Like it's so just the emotion in it is incredible. But anyway, La Bloc de Quai did this. They did this session with him where he played like songs from that record in France in a bell tower, and then he would like walk down the bell tower and just walk through the streets of France and just like play the songs for people. Like as he was just oh my God, it's amazing. And they have this one with Mac DeMarco where he's walking around this park and he goes up to like these cute little kids and he's like playing music with these cute little kids. And it's just like, I feel like they really have it on lock. Like it's really cool.
I think I've seen that video.
Have you? You probably have.
He's
it's pretty
walking
viral.
through the park?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that.
Yeah, that's like this platform. They've done stuff with everybody. They have this one like Robin Pecknold playing stuff in Glacier Park, I think it is. But like anyway, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I'm thinking of this video too. I wonder if they did it. Do you know the band The Districts?
I know. I've heard of them like multiple times. I don't think I've ever listened to
There's
them.
like a video of like him. I don't know where it's at, but he's like kind of playing under this bridge.
Oh yeah, it sounds
along
like them.
this river. It's really cool. It's like the whole band, like it's like just him on acoustic. It starts, and then like the whole band like comes behind him.
Oh, that sounds like
and
something
has
they
like
do,
like
yeah.
these little tiny amps, like with electric guitars and like the bass
so
and stuff.
cool.
And it's just really cool. And it's just like them walking along, and it's like some people like sitting and watching him play. Like there's one where there's like it's a little baby in a stroller like watching him play this like song.
Oh, that's so cool,
really
dude.
nice.
That's so cool. That's like an untapped market, I feel like. There's God, what is it? I wonder if you guys have played it. There's a venue in Davis that's like very much like that. Like it's outside and like I don't know. I been getting into like outside venues. Have you guys ever played the Oakland Secret?
No.
Oakland Secret's so cool.
I know about Oakland Secret. I wish we would have. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah, it's a sick venue. I'm playing with this band right now called Clover, and we played there like a couple weeks ago. It's so like, I don't know, it feels so Bay Area because it's in like it's in West Oakland, like right next to the BART station, and then there's this like it's essentially like a big house, and the backyard is just converted into this venue, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking sick.
I love outdoor venues.
Dude, me too. You guys ever played any like outdoor venues in Santa Cruz or anything?
No, I don't think we have. I think the only place we've played in Santa Cruz really is the
Catalyst?
It's the Catalyst, the Atrium.
Have you
That
played any
smaller
outdoor
room.
shows?
We've done I did like a Davis festival at their campus.
Cherry
like,
Blossom?
in May.
Or the picnic one?
Whole Earth Festival is what they call it.
I love how we just named 3 festivals that happened to Davis.
It was cool. Unfortunately, one of us had gotten sick at the time, so I played by myself, just like the acoustic set.
Oh, that's cool.
But that was fun to play outside. We used to like some of the first shows we ever did was this thing called Jeff Stock.
Jeff Stock, huh?
Which just happened to be one of Bradley's friends, Jeff, that like threw like this little festival in his backyard.
Oh, that's awesome.
those were some of the first shows we played. I think the very first Carpool Tunnel show was at that.
Wow, that's so cool. Have you guys played? You guys haven't played live down here yet, right? Like since you moved?
No, we haven't. I mean, I guess the last time we played live in LA was February.
Are you like waiting to do that, or like do you want to do that after you put the record out, or
after
what?
the record, we're just working on the music, and it's like going back to the work life balance thing. You know, it's like we're just been kind of balancing when we can find time to tour.
Yeah. Is that ever difficult for you? As such like a live band, like is taking time to record ever like something that's hard to prioritize since you want to be playing live so much?
Well, we definitely want to record the music.
Of course, yeah.
On. So it does feel like that's kind of like takes priority before going and playing live as much as we like want to keep touring, you know. Because we have this music we've been working on, and a lot of this stuff has been written for a really long time. So we're kind of just like itching to get it out in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, like while taking our time. But
what have been like the biggest challenges that have come with recording this record opposed to the last one? Like, do you think there's been anything that like, or maybe not even challenges, but just like differences in regards to the process? Like, is there anything specifically this time, like logistically, that's been harder or easier? Because I know you guys are now working in. Brad was talking to me about it. You're working at Eagle Rock Studio, right? It's like a studio in Eagle Rock.
Yeah, it's called King Size Sound Labs. Which, funny story is like, moved to LA, and I think like one of the differences I've noticed about LA neighborhoods is it seems like neighbors are kind of like I don't know if it's like forced to like know one another because it's like your houses are a little bit closer and you have these front yards where you're kind of like you have no choice but to kind of like say hi because you're all right next to each other. Whereas like this, I feel like the houses in San Francisco are like all touched together and there's like no front yard. Yeah. So it's like not like you're going out and like hanging out on the porch and like seeing your neighbor next door.
Yeah.
You know? But I love that because like I don't know, there's something I miss about like growing up and having like close connections to your neighbors. And,
oh, dude, I know.
I was very much a cul-de-sac kid. So
oh my God, me too, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, I grew up on a street called Greystone Lane. And I'm sorry to sidetrack you.
No, it's okay, we'll go back.
Yeah, but it was like a cul-de-sac, and I knew every single kid in that cul-de-sac. It was in Clayton, California.
Back before these smartphones existed.
Way before.
And you'd go knock on your neighbors, you know, like the kid that was down the street, you'd go knock on his door or something.
Can so-and-so come out and play? Yeah. I remember like we would all, dude, there like two ingrained memories in my head are like we would all take our DSs and we would like picto chat. Like I'd picto chat with all the kids in the cul-de-sac. And then we'd also like catch bugs. I don't know why we caught bugs, but it was very much like a wholesome thing. We would catch bugs.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the thing. Anyway,
I remember having like a Game Boy SP and going to my my neighbor's house. He had one too, and it was like both had this Pokemon game. Oh, yeah. And I remember like you could connect the cable from like, you know, with a Game Boy, and I'd connect it to yours, and then like that would allow you to like transfer
Pokemon.
Like,
yeah,
you go to the Pokemon and you could like give your friend a Pokemon and be like, oh dude, I'm gonna trade you for, you know, here's a Charizard for the, you know, Blastoise or something, and you're like, dude, stoked, you know.
I remember
that was like a revolutionary thing, you know. And then I'm like thinking now, I'm like, I could just airdrop you a Pokemon or something. You know? Like, it's just so funny. Like,
imagine if Pokemon Go, you could airdrop Pokemon. Like, imagine what that would look like. That'd be so funny.
I don't know. I don't play Pokemon Go, but
me neither. I want to get on it though. I'm sorry, that was so sidetracked.
No, it's so good.
What were you saying?
God. Okay, let's connect back. Neighbors. So yeah, like moving down to LA. I just happened to start chatting up with my neighbor. Like I, you know, it wasn't like snooping. I just like happened to see like through, cause like it's funny, like where our sink is, like you can kind of like, I clean my dishes and like, but there's like a window and it like looks like right next to my neighbor's.
Oh, that's at my parents' houses. Yeah.
Window. Like our kitchens are looking at each other. So like I could like look up and like catch the, you know, our neighbor like both washing dishes, like looking at each other. Like, oh.
What'd you have for dinner?
Yeah. So there's like a window next to that, and I saw like a mic set up, you know, like with a pop filter and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, and so of course, like easy conversation topic. I was like, hey, how's it going? And, you know, like
so you're Drake.
Introduced each other. And this guy happened to just be an audio engineer.
Oh, that's cool.
And, and we started chatting up, and I was like, we just moved here. We're in a band, actually working on our second record. Like, that was like kind of the conversation. And he was like, oh, it's, I used to work at a studio like around the corner. Or I think, I don't know if he worked there, but he recorded there at some point. And so he's like, I can put you in touch if you'd like, so gave us an email chain. And then we just happened to go over there one night because they invited us to go check out the studio. So Bradley and I went over there, literally like less than 10 minutes from our house, like 8 minutes maybe. Could basically ride a bike there if you wanted to. And we just like fell in love with the space. It was just like, it's a beautiful studio. It's nothing I've ever experienced before. And we just like really bonded with the guys that work there. One of them is Ruddy. His name's Ruddy Colors.
That's a badass name.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Shout out to Ruddy Colors.
Shout out to Ruddy. He's such a cool guy to work with. So
he's the engineer?
He's the lead engineer. And then Dave, is his name Dave Trumpfio? Trumpfio, yeah.
That's a cool name too. Damn, there's some cool names in the studio.
Yeah, cool.
Dave Trumpfio.
Dave Trumpfio. He goes. He used to be nicknamed New Wave Dave.
Oh, I cannot conjure up a better nickname for Dave. There's not one that exists. New Wave Dave.
He owns the studio, and is also producing the record.
Oh,
and he's
cool.
gonna mix it and master it. And it's like we didn't know a lot about these guys that we were working with. We just kind of just vibed it out, like kind of like how we've done everything, like. With record labels, contracts, like we just vibed it out. I feel like that's like you just gotta trust your gut at the end of the day, and just surround yourself with the people that like it feels good to be around.
Yeah.
So we just kind of took a chance and just went with the studio. And I think the more that we've worked with them, like the more I've just fallen in love with working with both of them. Like. We learned Dave was in this band called the Pulsars.
The Pulsars
in the 90s. So he's from Chicago, and he's done some of the coolest fucking shit I've ever heard of, like an artist. Like he was like one of the first bands to like actually use backing tracks. Like
whoa,
he used like a digital 8-track. And like would play it live, and he had like a remote like up by his guitar to like basically start these tracks and program them. And like went on tour with like Weezer, Third Eye Blind, and all these like crazy big bands, and was just like super involved in the Chicago music scene, and just happened to move to LA I think like 15 years ago or something now. But he's just like. I'm so happy we're working with him, and it's just like an unlikely connection.
So he's your neighbor?
Well,
or your neighbor used to work there?
Our neighbor was in a band, and I don't remember the name of the band, but he sought out Dave because he loved Dave's music so much.
To like record with them?
Yeah, like he knew the Pulsars' music and loved it so much that he was like, I want this guy to make my record.
Yeah.
And so he went to Dave, and that's how they know each other, and that's kind of how we got connected. But Dave was like telling us the other day that he was like one of the first people in Chicago to like buy the original Pro Tools.
Whoa!
And it cost $60,000 at the time. And I was in the 90s. So
how much? So that was like $100,000.
Who knows, dude? Like and.
Jesus.
So a lot of people would go to record with this guy. Like,
this guy's got the Pro Tools hookup. Yeah,
he's done like a lot of Wilco's stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like,
I'm like a huge Jeff Tweedy fan.
Good connection to Jeff Tweedy. Like one of Jeff Tweedy's guitars is sitting in the studio.
What the hell? That's crazy. So you had this whole like oasis of resources like right next to your house. You didn't even know it. Mm-hmm. That's LA for you, bro.
And it's on this place called the Rock Block.
The Rock Block.
Or that's at least what I don't know if Dave nicknamed
Is that
but
any relation to the metal band Playing on the Rock or no?
I don't know. No. It's funny because it's in Eagle Rock, and there is a giant fucking rock in Eagle Rock that you could theoretically set a band up on.
And there could be an eagle there.
If you're trying to do a live session. But yeah, it's this place called the Rock Block. He opened up this place called King Size Sound Labs, and there's like 4 studios, maybe even more. I don't know exactly, but they're all like kind of in this building, unsuspecting building. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys next door happens to be this guy named Rob Schnaff, who's just also like a guy that's like in partnership with Dave. Mm-hmm. He did like all the Elliott Smith records.
Oh
like,
my God. Oh my God. Dude.
And like recorded like Loser by Beck, like back in like 96 or something like that, and like didn't release it for like 2 years because there's like this really cool interview if you want to go check it out. It's from Earthquaker Devices. They do like these little like kind of 45-minute videos called I think it's What's My Junk or Show Me Your Junk.
Show Me Your Junk. Okay.
Show Me Your Junk. And it's just basically like interviewing these crazy record producers that just like go throughout the studio and like talk individually about these pieces, whether it's like a guitar or like this weird piece of gear. And there's one that Dave does, our producer, and his is really cool. But then also Rob has one, and he kind of talks about how the Loser record was recorded. The vocals are literally like the first or second take, and they were all recorded on this like really old kind of like, I don't know if it was super old, but it was like one of those cheap like shitty Radio Shack mics.
Yeah,
like it just looks like a plate, and you just kind of like hold it up,
yeah,
to, like your mouth.
I could kind of see that. I feel like his vocals in that song are like really like overly compressed. I'm a loser, baby. Like the rap part, I feel like is very. I can see that now that you say it. Yeah.
And they had that song for like a while. They didn't release it because it was like, I think it was just so weird that they were like, this doesn't sound like anything else. And I think like, if I'm not mistaken, like Rob was saying that like Nirvana really hadn't like broken out yet. You know, like. So I like Nevermind. I don't think it came out. Like they had the song recorded before that. So it was like kind of weird to like release that.
Yeah.
So they like waited for a while, and I think they released it like 2 or 3 years later after recording it. But yeah, just crazy record, dude. Like I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think like the Dr. Dog Shame record was recorded next door to us.
Dr. Dog is so sick.
Yeah. That's like a band like I feel like we take a lot of inspiration from.
Really?
You know? I mean, I love their music. I think it's
they're
super,
great.
Super powerful.
I think that's a cool influence that not a lot of people probably have. Maybe they do.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the generation right now is also being influenced by them, especially with like, you know, Weird All the Time Go like blowing up on TikTok and stuff like that.
I have actually thought so much about that specific song blowing up, and it really blows my mind because think about it. That song came out on their first record, which was what, 2005 or 6, right?
I think it's on the Shame record, which is like,
I
think it's their second or third record.
I thought it was on their first record. I don't know. Anyway,
I think the first record is the one with there's like a balloon on it or something.
Yeah, I thought it was on that one.
I'm probably mistaken.
I don't know. I'm probably mistaken. Either way, though, like it blows my. Like I was thinking about this very deeply one day. That song is at least 10 years old. That song was made in a time where TikTok or the idea of TikTok or even the modern idea of social media didn't exist. And that song, in essence, was written before they understood like what would happen to it 10 years in the future. And that's a really weird thought to me. And I think it's like kind of a testament to why you should just do things to do things in a weird way. Not that they wouldn't put that song out if it wasn't TikTok compatible, but they did. And little did they know that this random media platform that didn't exist yet and wouldn't exist for 10 years was entirely like perfect for this song and everything that this song represents. Like there's no way they could have known that or predicted that.
Yeah.
But it's weird to think about.
And do you know the Walters thing?
Yeah. What about them?
Do you know like so they stopped being a band, and then that song blew up.
What? I didn't know that.
That song blew up on TikTok, and it blew up so much that it kind of like they were like, of course we're gonna come back and play music again because like
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
I think they stopped because like the band was successful, but it wasn't like I don't think it had made it to the point where it was like it made sense to like drop everything else.
Yeah.
You know? But that song like forced them to almost come back in a way.
That's so
it's like
cool.
so crazy big now.
Yeah. And they're huge. They have this whole like push behind them now.
Yeah, I remember listening to that song like when we first started Carpool.
That's so crazy.
So it's cool to see that it like took off.
Yeah.
Like, what, 5-6 years later, maybe even more.
That's such a weird idea, because like you never there's no way to prepare for that, because the thing is, it's not like those things were intentional. It's not like they made that song for TikTok. You're like, they're like, oh, this is gonna blow up in the future. Obviously not, but it's kind of, I think it's a testament as to like why you just keep going, because you
100%.
never ever ever know what is around the corner. Like you just don't know, and I feel like I think about this a lot. I'm like, if you do what you love for 10 years and 2 days, 10 years and 3 days could be the day that changes your life. And you'll never ever reach that day if you stop. And it's just like you just never know, man. And I understand that like you get to a certain point where you're like, I've been doing this so long, like I don't think it's viable, but it's like I feel like it's a part of you that you have to keep alive. I feel like when you let your dreams die, that's like letting like you die, and like really succumbing to like what I wouldn't say necessarily what the world wants you to be, but what the world has engineered you to think makes more sense. Because people just, I don't know, I feel like, I've been saying this a lot recently, I think practicality isn't always so practical. I think like if you're going to settle for practicality and be miserable, there's nothing practical about that. One of my favorite quotes ever is it's a Jim Carrey quote. I really want to get it tattooed one day, but I think it's like, it's changed my outlook probably than any other quote ever has. It's so many of us choose our path based on fear that disguises practicality. I think about that a lot. And I don't think I really don't think that like settling for a 9-to-5 job that you hate, I don't think that's practical.
Yeah, no. I'm like definitely not a settler. Like I feel like I get pretty bored after like even like a year or two of like the same job. Like luckily I feel like my job now is like, I don't know, it has enough diversity to where it feels like every day is a little different. Whereas like, the restaurant industry is pretty repetitive.
Yeah, it's tough.
But going back to what you were saying about, you were talking about albums, right? And recording and like, keep going and like eventually like something might blow up like the TikTok songs.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I just have to remind myself of. And it kind of feels like with this record, like we're kind of just getting started, like almost in a way.
It's awesome.
Especially because this record's like just so different. In a really cool way, I think. It's just like a more evolved like form of our old music. And like was really like creating like an atmosphere almost in a way. Like it really feels like when you're listening to this record, like it brings
Paint a
you
scene,
to a place. Like and you get to like be in that place. Almost like what you were saying, like when we were recording like something like this, like we kind of get to step into this space for a little bit.
Yeah.
And come out. And not that the first record doesn't do that, but I would say that this record is going to do a lot better of a job.
Really?
Of bringing you to a different place.
I feel like, and not to gas you up too much, but I feel like the first record does that like amazingly.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I hear like, and you know why? It's because of the bongos in the beginning, the hand drums.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's like a hypnotic thing, Yeah. It's like I'm gonna snap 3 times.
Come into bloom. Come into bloom.
Because it repeats like the same bongo part. It's at the beginning, happens at the end.
Yeah.
And it just restarts.
Yeah. Which is fucking cool, dude. That's like a pretty unique thing that I don't think I've ever seen anybody do.
I mean, we're super big people on vinyl. Like we love vinyl. I mean, I love the experience of listening to a record all the way through.
Yeah.
So that's something that we try to like incorporate into our music,
Of course.
Which is kind of like a dying thing in a way.
Yeah, like making music for vinyl. That's certainly a dying
and almost
thing.
like making it's like, I don't know if this album is necessarily like a concept album, but it's like it's conceptualized in the way that it brings you into this space, and the songs are very similar in a sense, and just like talks on like a ton of different topics. Just like being content with your life and There's like some existentialism in there, and like I think the biggest thing is just like the kind of ending is like almost just like doing what's best for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time, especially like just connecting back to a lot of things you were talking about, especially being in LA and being, you know, jealous of others and expectations of others. Just accepting that like you're doing what you love for yourself and not others.
Is that something you struggle at as a musician? Because I think about this a lot. I heard Curtis Waters, my friend, talking about this, and I was thinking about it. I feel like there is something about making art that has to be, no matter how you slice it, inherently narcissistic in a way. And it's weird to think about. But it's like, how do you surpass that barrier where it's like, I'm not making this for somebody else. I'm making it for me. But I still want it to like do well. You know, I still want there to be like some pop appeal to whatever I'm making. Because at the end of the day, like whatever you create has to have some kind of pop appeal. Yeah. You know, but it's like if you're not interested in that, how do you maintain that balance between making what you want to make versus what other people want to hear, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're all kind of buying into it with social media too.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We're all like looking for reassurance in a way, you know, with like, you don't want to put something up and like have no one react to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, of course not.
Which is tough as being an artist. 'Cause it's like, you obviously want people to connect to your music. And fortunately, like we've had people that do connect to our music, which is an amazing thing. And that definitely like drives me to want to do it more. But like I have, you know, you have these dreams and like you want to do things for yourself to a certain extent because it makes you happy. You don't want to just do it just because, you know, you want to like meet other people's expectations, whether it be family members or friends or people you might not even know, you know? And so I don't know, we kind of had this idea, and there's this movie called The Beach Bum.
The Beach Bump?
Beach Bum.
Beach Bum, okay. The Beach Bump.
It's an interesting movie. It's really cool though. I highly recommend you watch it. But I think the coolest part of the story is that it's about this poet named Moondog, this fictional character.
Moondog.
Kind of this, like, everything about him is, like, super toxic, you know? Alcoholic, drug addict, like, cheats on his wife.
Guy's going through
very chaotic life. You know?
Yeah.
But he writes beautiful poetry, like, and it's just, like, this contrast of these, like, you know, he obviously has, like, these major character flaws, but is, like, great at what he's passionate about, and he just, like, almost is content in a way. Is it okay if I spoil the movie?
Go for it.
Okay.
It sounds like the kind of movie I can watch and still enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna give you the spark notes. His wife dies, and in the will, it's like you have to write your next poetry book in order to get this money because like she's like super wealthy.
Whoa, that's cool.
And so it forces him to like
get off his ass.
Get off his ass and do what he's supposed to do. And so he writes this book, and it's like in the movie, it like becomes like a New York Times bestseller, blah blah blah, and he gets the money, and so he like calls the lawyer and he like asks the lawyer to like take all this money, like these millions of dollars, and put it on a boat and like sail it down to the Caribbean, like where he is, and I think it's the Keys or something. He's like in the Florida Keys. So he has this boat, he brings it down with all the money, millions of dollars, and then he has like all his friends and he throws this huge party and he's like lighting fireworks on this boat, and then he lights the firework on the boat and he burns the boat with all the money on it. And like that's kind of the ending of the movie is like he did this he like fulfilled his like his wife's wishes at the time to like write this poetry book. And then kind of just gives away and burns all the things that he had earned from it.
Whoa.
And it's almost like it's kind of like this beautiful message, though, you know?
Yeah, it's like, what are you really doing it for?
Yeah. Yeah, like, are you doing it? Like, he wasn't doing it for the money at the end of the day, you know? Like, he did it because, like, he was doing it, like, for his own poetry's sake and, like, getting his story out there. And I don't know, there's something beautiful about that. So I just, like, we kind of took inspiration from that for, I guess, some of the meaning behind the record, which is a cool little inspiration and allusion to that.
And Beach Bum.
Yeah.
That I think there is something really beautiful about that, though. It's like, what are you really doing it for? I think, like, if you want to have longevity in a creative career, you really, really, really have to do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. Because I think doing it for yourself allows you to do it even when you're not making money off it. It allows you to do it even when it's not getting it's not reaching who you want it to do. It really just allows you to create for the sake of creating. And I think that's really, really important. And that's why I really believe that, like, when you if your dream is to be a creative and you let your dream die, you're letting a very, like, I don't know if, I think youthful would be a good word for it. Mm-hmm. A very youthful part of you and a very true and real part of yourself die with it. And I think that's really, really bad for yourself, because I feel like it doesn't really matter how deep you get into some other non-creative career. You can still hold on to it. You know, you can still, like you, Ben, could be working at CrowdSurf and you could be an upper level executive. I'm sorry, it's called CrowdSurf, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't mess it up. But you could be like an upper level executive doing that, and you love your job, but you can still come home and write every day. You can still come home and play guitar every day. Oh, yeah. You know, and it's like, I think if you keep that little part of you, that creative part of you alive, that is just so good for who you are and your soul and your individuality and you as a person, you know? I feel like if you let that die, it gets scary.
And it's like kind of a balance, you know? It's like you're doing it for your own happiness. Because, like, I like live to create, you know? Like, I want to, like, I don't see life being lived to the fullest if I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But then I do have to remind myself, you know, that people are listening to this, you know?
It's a responsibility.
So yeah, exactly. That's the best way of putting it, you know? And that's, like, not even just in the sense of, like, putting out music and, like, what that music is about. It's also, like, being a part of the scene and, like, kind of being, like, a safeguard to, like, make sure that place is safe for people to go and see you live. And that's a huge thing that has gotten us, like, I don't know, like, into some trouble too, because it's like there's some politics of, like, turning down shows because of, you know, you're standing up for what's right, almost in a way. We've turned down, you know, of course, shows with bands that probably would have, like, like, not, I don't know if it's like, but it would have been positive almost in a way to, like, be exposed to all those new people.
Yeah.
But, like, we don't agree with, I don't know, especially bands that have allegations, and, like, somehow some of them are still supported by the music scene. But it's, like, tough, you know? Like, I wouldn't, we have to, like, be supportive of one another as bands too, to make sure, like, we're not taking those shows with certain bands so that we can protect the scene and make sure that, like, you know, people that do make the scene an unsafe place are not, I don't know, given the spotlight that they're given, you know?
No, of course. Do you think now that since you work in the music industry, you've seen both sides of that? Like, I would imagine, because you're right, and I think there is a lot of, like, there's a lot of bands and labels and companies that work with, that exist within music, that very clearly can benefit off working with an artist that has done some really, really morally wrong things. Mm-hmm. And I think very often some of these companies and labels will prioritize the profit. They'll say, you know, I can work with artist X and X, but artist X and X has all these allegations and he has all these cases against him. He's done all these awful things, but we're going to work with him because he's huge and he can make us a lot of money. Like, do you think now that you've been on the business side and then you've been on the creative side, you've kind of seen, like, the way that people navigate that? And has that been, like, hard to, like, kind of keep your moral compass? Because I would imagine, like, because, I mean, it's like we're all human, you know? It's like you, obviously, if Carpool gets, like, an offer to do a show with the biggest band in the world, of course you want to do it. But, like, what if they're morally like terrible people, and they've done all these things, and they have all these cases against them.
It's tough. No, I mean, like, I kind of try to go with my gut, and my gut would be to say not to support them.
Of course, yeah.
Because even if you are benefiting, it's like not worth it to me to like go against what I believe in, you know?
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, being on the industry is, it's kind of definitely shed a light on it. You definitely see that like there's people that are able to kind of, I don't know, cover up their tracks and still like go on, even though like things have been said about them. And I think it really depends on the size of, you know, certain bands, but it's tough. I mean, it's definitely getting better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all the way there, you know? And it's really, I feel like only been like elevated since like the pandemic happened. And I'm not really sure why that is. Like maybe it's just like people being online more, and
it could be, yeah, it could be that. I think it could be, you know, I'd ask you this question. Do you feel like the pandemic made you look at yourself in a very honest way? Because I feel like I did a lot of self-reflection in the pandemic. And maybe if that was a more like mass thing, that could be a cause of it. I don't know. I feel like in the pandemic, like I realized a lot of stuff about myself. Like I certainly realized that I had a little bit of ego that I had to get rid of. I think I realized that one thing I really realized in this life is that like you can do what you love 24/7, 365. You can work and not fucking sleep, do whatever you want. But that's only a viable thing to do if you have things in your life that make it worth it. And for me, I wasn't seeing people I love, you know, because it was the pandemic or whatever. I wasn't seeing my friends that I love, but I realized like that is a big part of what makes like what we do in this life worth it, you know?
yeah. No, absolutely. And there's like, you know, like things that I feel like I need to have to like kind of keep that, I don't know, happiness level.
Yeah.
You know, and that includes nature and working on music and being around people I love. And
yeah.
Fortunate enough to feel like I have all those things, which is nice.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, I feel like I've gotten into a really great place, you know? Don't feel like I'm like 100% content yet. I don't think, I don't think you ever are really.
No,
right?
yeah.
It's like always hungry.
It's the human condition.
Yeah.
You always want more.
Yeah, 100%.
What's like your biggest 2023 goal? Like, do you have something you really, really want to do this year opposed to last year?
I mean, I think releasing this great record is definitely like on the top of my list. It's a good question. You're asking me my resolutions. Huh?
Resolution. Except don't call it a resolution, because as soon as you call it a resolution, it's just not going to happen. Yeah.
I guess we are nearing the end of the year, though, so it's like, gosh, gotta think about those things. I mean, I think just like taking also advantage of like where I am, you know, even more so than I am now. I think like a lot of people that I have known from my past that I really enjoy working with, including yourself.
Thank you, brother.
Are moving down here, and I'm around them, and I'm excited for like what's to come of that, you know. It's kind of cool. Like I feel like you know, you and Lance and like all these, you know, people that are moving down here that are in the scene, including Jake, who now lives with us. We're almost like forming a little like scene of our own, you know.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It makes me really happy, you know?
Yeah, it's like starting small, but it's like growing slowly. Like even like the Friendsgiving, and I'm sure like you having, you know, that like Secret Santa with friends last night too is like similar feeling. You know, it's like nice to be around something like that again, because I feel like that's like something we lost with 2020 happening and the pandemic and everything slowing down. And it's like slowly growing back again. But now I'm in a new place, and it's like exciting, and who knows what's going to happen, you know? I
agree. I think that was something I was afraid to like not have when I moved here, you know? But I'm really, really happy like I found that group. Like because I feel like you're right. Like I feel like there is a bit of like a scene bubbling, at least around the people that we're around. And that's a very, very beautiful thing, because one of the worst things to do is do what you love every day and have nobody to share it with, you know?
Yeah.
But we're lucky.
Yeah, well said.
Mr. Ben, Carpool Tunnel, Ben Koppenjan. Not Koppenjan, Koppenjan.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to end with?
Nah, I feel like we touched all bases. Except tell them where they can find you, where they can find Carpool Tunnel, when they can expect a new record potentially, when
Should I
they
say it
can
into
get
the
happy.
camera?
Say it in the camera.
Okay. Carpool Tunnel Band, Instagram. Carpool Tunnel on pretty much all other platforms.
It'll be on the screen right
On
here too.
all the streaming platforms you can find us. We got a new record coming out summer of 2023. Working on it right now, and we're really excited to share it with y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir. All right. Music matters.